I don't know about you guys, but clowns are just fucking creepy. I don't see how anyone can find these guys cheerful or entertaining. I mean, yeah, they tell jokes and act like clumsy oafs, but that still doesn't cover up the fact that these painted smiles and creepy ass faces are disturbing to look at. There's gotta be some actual scary clown encounters in the real world, right? I mean, I don't see how there can't be. So therefore, I have a small collection of them for you tonight. Here are 5 real, scary encounters with clowns that will make you shiver. Okay, so I made an account just so I could post this story. I've had a lot of weird shit happen to me in my life, but this was downright the most frightening thing that has ever happened to me. I will try to be as descriptive as possible. As a backstory, I live in Miami, Florida, with my boyfriend. However, I grew up in Naples, Collier County, to be exact, and that is where the rest of my family lives. We go there for major holidays and birthdays to visit. So last Thanksgiving, we decided we would take our then 2-month-old daughter with us on our trip so my family could see her. We left around 12:30 p.m. to head there, which would put us there at about 2:30, depending on traffic. We figured we would leave before 8 p.m. We were new parents, and that was the first time we had ever driven anywhere far with her. Well, one thing leads to another, and we end up staying way past 8, and instead we leave somewhere between 11 and 11:30. The only positive thing about leaving that late is that there would be no traffic, and Alligator Alley would be pretty much empty. The negatives are that there are literally no lights for most of the drive, and you can't see what is beyond your headlights. So, if you broke down, it would be pretty terrifying in the pitch black in the middle of the swamp. That is always my fear when I make that drive. My family told us we could crash there, but we didn't have anything for overnight, and the drive should be less than 2 hours, since there isn't any traffic. So we put our daughter in the car seat, dreading the drive back, and thankfully she passes out instantly. My boyfriend is driving, and we're about 30 to 45 minutes in, and he looks at me and says, "Babe, I'm really tired. Do you think you could take over?" My boyfriend hates my driving, so I know he wouldn't ask me to drive unless he was really tired. Plus he drove on the way there, so I didn't mind at all. I told him to pull over at the next rest area, and I would take the wheel. So he keeps driving, waiting for a rest area sign, and as we're driving, I'm talking to him to keep him awake. We end up seeing a sign that says, "Rest area ahead." So he says he's going to pull into that one when we get there. Well, as we are talking, our daughter wakes up and we hear her cooing and making different sounds in the back seat. Then the next thing you know, she rips one and takes this big wet shit. I mean, you could really hear it. Then she starts crying hysterically. So we're both like, great, now we have to change her. But it wasn't really a big deal because we were pulling up to the rest stop anyways. It would just take a little longer. Now, to paint a picture for you, it wasn't a rest stop that had buildings with bathrooms and vending machines. There are a lot of them like that out there. This one was basically just a long parking lot with one row of empty parking spaces, which basically just looped back onto the road. Really simple, nothing much to it. The parking spaces face out to the woods or swamp. The only thing separating the woods from the parking spaces was a tall metal fence that stretched only to the end of the parking spaces. So he pulls into the last parking spot just before the fence ends, and we both get out, leaving the car and headlights on. He goes to the passenger side, and I go to the back seat to change the baby. I take her out of her car seat and sit in the back, changing her diaper. Meanwhile, she is screaming at the top of her lungs. I finally finish changing and get her to calm down, and I walk her around the car back to her car seat. Her car seat is on the passenger side, behind where my boyfriend is now sitting. So I'm crouching over, buckling her in, and I hear my boyfriend in a really confused voice go, "What in the fuck is that? Babe, get in the fucking car, now!" He is literally the hardest person to scare, so to hear his voice that way got my attention. So I stand straight up from my crouching position and look in front of us. My heart literally sank. There is a big, fat clown on the other side of the fence where my headlights are shining. The top of his head looked bald, and he had bright red hair sticking out the sides of his head. He had really creepy face paint on. He even had a red clown nose. And it looked like there was something splattered across his costume. He was standing there silently, his face pressed up against the fence to the point where his skin was seeping through the holes, and he was smiling the creepiest fucking smile I have ever seen in my life. Sheer terror came over me, and I yell out something along the lines of "holy shit," and slam my daughter's side door. I run around the back of my car, my heart racing a mile a minute. The clown lets out the creepiest laugh I have ever heard, and he starts shaking the fence violently. And then he starts walking towards the end of the fence, slowly, like he was going to come around. As he is walking, he starts singing "Rockabye Baby" while gliding his fingers across the fence. The way his voice sounded while he was singing, it was so chilling. I can't describe it. It was a really low-toned, shaky, psychotic clown voice. I am assuming he sang it because he heard my daughter crying, but who knows? I jump into the driver's side after what feels like forever, even though the whole thing probably lasted 15 seconds, and lock all the doors. I'm literally shaking throughout my body, running on pure adrenaline. My boyfriend is in my ear saying, "What the fuck? What the fuck? Let's get the fuck out of here!" This clown is now on our side of the fence, right in front of us. As I throw my car in reverse, he starts beating his hands on the hood of my car, now screaming something I couldn't make out, because I was in pure nope mode. My boyfriend is even yelling, "If it gets in front of the car, just run it over!" So I was fully prepared to do so. But he didn't. I sped out of there like a bat out of hell. I looked in my rear view, and the creepy-ass clown is just standing there in the middle of the rest area waving us off. We got onto the main road, and I was driving faster than I have ever driven in my life. We were so stunned and traumatized by the whole ordeal that all we could manage to get out was, "What just happened?" for the remainder of the ride. We still speculate what it is he was doing out there at 12 a.m. dressed like a clown in the middle of the Everglades on Thanksgiving night. We considered he was trying to fuck with people, but you would need some serious balls to pull that kind of stunt out there in the Everglades. People that live around there don't mess around. I truly believe that in the way he was singing and screaming, that he was absolutely out of his mind. I don't have any other explanation. It gives us goosebumps to this day, almost a year later, trying to answer the question of what his intentions were. And what terrifies me the most, and gives me chills even now as I'm typing this, is the fact that we were parked there for at least 10 minutes while I was in the back seat changing my 2-month-old child, being watched by some psycho dressed as a clown. I always wonder how long he was watching. The world is full of crazy people. Living in Miami, I really thought I had seen it all, but I was wrong. Needless to say, this Thanksgiving, we're staying at home. This is kinda short, but I think it fits here. My name is Anthony, and I am 20 currently. I live on my own nowadays, but when I was a kid, my family lived in a really nice home. We had a big backyard, and it was connected to a huge field of brush, and other cool plants such as bamboo. It's normal to see people walking their dogs along the trails here. Anyway, one day me and my little brother were hanging out in the backyard, and we decided to go play a game that our older brother had made up. We basically would climb to higher areas of a closed storm drain, drop rocks down, and yell at each other when we could hear the rock passing through our designated post. If the rock made it all the way to the bottom, we would grow excited, and of course, we were winners that time. Well, since it was just me and my little brother, we didn't have enough people to run every post. Instead, we decided to run the bottom two. It meant less running up and down the steep hill anyway.